The Erasure Protocol follows Dr. Elian Voss, a memory archivist on Halo Terra, a world reliant on neural technology to preserve and control human memory. While extracting memories from a dying subject, Elian uncovers a corrupted memory strand leading him to Sector 13, a forbidden area filled with erased histories and digital decay. Driven by curiosity, he illegally accesses the data only to begin experiencing false memories and intense déjà vu, including fragments of his lost sister whose existence is officially erased. As Elian digs deeper, he is caught by a rebel group, the Rememberers, who reveal the Erasure Protocol, an insidious tool used by the mnemonic order to erase dissent and rewrite history. Elian's unraveling mind blurs the line between his memories and those of others, including Sarah Nix, an enforcer of the protocol who may have once been human. Desperate to uncover the truth, Elian collaborates with a rogue AI to upload the forbidden data to the public grid, risking societal collapse. As the truth spreads, memories flood back, causing chaos. Some people awaken while others descend into madness. The mnemonic order collapses and rebellions spark across Halo Terra, signaling the beginning of a new, fractured era. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. I'd love to know. And if you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, let's jump in. The memory was warm. That more than anything disturbed Dr. Elian Voss. He sat in the white silence of Extraction Room 7, the hum of machinery pressing gently against the edges of his hearing, like a distant insect trapped in glass. Before him lay the withered shell of a man, skin translucent, eyes fluttering, skull encased in a neurohalo. The man's mind was dying, disintegrating like paper in water. And yet the memory Elian had just extracted pulsed with clarity. A child's hand, reaching upward. A golden field beneath a twin-sunned sky. A woman laughing, voice echoing through time. It wasn't the subject's memory, it was his. Elian blinked and severed the neural tether. The hum dropped to a hush. The neurohalo retracted with a mechanical sigh, leaving the old man slack-jawed and still. A blue light pulsed gently on the console beside Elian's wrist. Subject deceased, extraction complete, memory strand. 746 a C-9 stored. He sat motionless for several seconds. His reflection hovered faintly in the obsidian glass of the monitor. Short-cropped black hair, tired gray eyes, and a shallow scar running from the corner of his lip to the line of his jaw. 34 years old, though he often felt older. Not that age meant much anymore on Halo Terra. Time was subjective when your memories could be edited, reordered, or sold. Elian Voss, came the voice through the intercom, crisp and genderless, synthesized from a dozen neural models. You've exceeded standard retention latency. Please clear Extraction Room 7 for sanitation. He rose slowly, pressing a palm to the release pad. The door hissed open with pneumatic grace. He stepped into the corridor, shoes clicking on the polished obsidian floor. The lights above flickered once, just once. And that was all it took for the memory to return. A girl's laugh, software, familiar, gone. He paused. There was no record of a sister. He had checked, repeatedly, but the memory remained. No matter how many times he flushed his cache, No matter how many audit sweeps he ran, the laugh stayed, like a shadow imprinted on the inside of his skull. The Archivum Tower loomed at the heart of Halo Terra, a needle of onyx and mirrored alloy that pierced the artificial sky. Inside, memories were curated, corrected, catalogued. Thousands of them uploaded every day, lives condensed into data tagged, filed, and sent into the vault. Elian moved through the hallways like a ghost, nodding at no one, seen by few. He preferred it that way. Archivists were not beloved. They were tolerated, revered in theory, avoided in practice. No one liked the idea of someone touching their thoughts, even in death. He reached his private lab, a modest space tucked behind a row of anonymized doors, and keyed in his passcode. The door slid open, revealing walls lined with memory drives stacked like ancient scrolls. He sat and called up the strand. 746 AC-9 flickered onto the hollow screen, a twisting lattice of light and sound. Memories encoded in bioneural patterns. He scanned the metadata. Birth year, 2291. Death, 2379. Name Oren Tash, former agricultural engineer. No history of artificial memory implants, no sign of corruption, except there it was. A flicker, hidden between the timestamps. A layer that shouldn't exist. Elian magnified it. Within the harmless sequence of childhood recollections, a fragment pulsed with foreign encryption, high-level data masking, the kind used only by classified guilds. He froze it, parsed the code, and stared. It was a reference. Sector 13. Impossible. There was no Sector 13. There had never been. He had lived on Halo Terra all his life. It was built with 12 habitable sectors and one unlisted administrative core. 13 was an architectural myth, an urban ghost story passed between apprentices in the early training simulators. But the reference was there, buried deep in a memory strand from a man who'd harvested algae farms. He leaned back in his chair, heart knocking once against his ribs. Not panic, curiosity. Something old stirred inside him, a flicker of the past. That laugh again, his maybe sister, maybe hallucination, echoing through a field that didn't exist. And then behind it something darker. A name like a whisper pulled from static. The Erasure Protocol. The lab lights dimmed, signaling the night cycle. Elian didn't move. His fingers hovered over the controls, one thought looping through his mind. What have they been hiding from us? The memory strand pulsed like a living thing. Elian watched it rotate in midair, a spiral of bioluminescent code suspended above his workstation. Its outer shell was seamless, standard encoding, nothing out of place. But beneath the surface, nested between time signatures, the anomaly remained. A cryptographic lattice fused into the strand like bone grafted to flesh. No ordinary citizen had access to that level of encryption, not even most within the mnemonic order. And yet, it was here, wrapped in the dying recollections of a retired algae technician. Elian moved his fingers in a slow circle, manipulating the holodisplay until the encrypted section hovered before him. The light shifted, casting his features in blue and violet. He activated a sandbox environment, quarantined, secure, and gently pulled the fragment free from the rest of the strand. It resisted. The strand fought back. He froze. Across the screen, error codes bloomed like blood in water. Integrity breach. Neural feedback loop. Detected. Warning. Memetic hazard class 3. A spike of pain lanced through Elian's temple. For one dizzying instant, he wasn't in the lab. He was falling through golden light, fields swaying. A child's laugh, his sister's, chased him like wind through tall grass, and then a screaming silence. Metal. A door closing. Sector 13. Elian gasped and slammed the emergency disconnect. The hollow screen imploded into static. He doubled over, palms flat on the desk, heart racing like a trapped engine. Whatever was inside that fragment, it wasn't passive data. It was active, alive, a memory built to defend itself. He spent the next 3 hours dissecting the outer code. Layer after layer revealed inconsistencies. The encryption was custom, not just sophisticated but adaptive. It responded to probes with shifting logic gates, creating new obfuscation sequences in real time. Only one faction on Halo Terra had that level of tech, the mnemonic order itself. His own employers. Of course, he muttered, voice hoarse. They're not just curating memory, they're quarantining it. He thought of the laugh again. His sister or someone implanted to look like her. Why would the Order erase a sector? What could have happened there that required this level of concealment? The memory fragment had mentioned a name. Faint, whispered through a veil of noise. The Erasure Protocol. He ran a search on the phrase through the internal database. Access denied. He tried rerouting through a private node. Nothing. Then he tried something dangerous, slicing the term into neural phonetics and searching unarchived fragments. Those discarded from standard indexing due to corruption, incompleteness, or volatility. The results were sparse, degraded, but not empty. One result caught his eye, a 142-year-old incident log from Sector 6, flagged under a now-defunct classification. The file had no author, no metadata, just one line. The Erasure Protocol is not deletion, it is rewriting. He sat back in his chair, skin crawling. If true, that meant they weren't just erasing memories, they were replacing them. Rewriting personal history, rewriting entire lives. Elian looked around the lab, half expecting someone to burst in. The silence pressed in like the vacuum between stars. He leaned forward again, voice barely above a whisper. How many people don't know who they really are? The door chimed. Once. Twice. A pause. Elian stiffened. No one ever came to his lab without request. His fingers moved to shut the displays, wiping the air clean. A second later, the room looked like nothing had happened. He opened the door. Standing there was archivist Maritanis, her uniform starched and perfect. Platinum braid wound tightly against her skull like a coil of wire. Her eyes were tired but focused. Elian, she said not unkindly, you're late for the audit debrief. Right. He blinked. I got caught in a deep dive. You were assigned a low-tier strand, she said, glancing past him. No expected anomalies. Strand was denser than it looked. Mira hesitated, then stepped closer. You should be careful. You know the protocols for unverified anomalies. I do. Her eyes searched his face for a moment. You look pale. Elian offered a weak smile. Occupational hazard. Mira nodded slowly. Just remember, anything flagged as non-conforming goes directly to Director Nix. Don't try to solve puzzles that aren't yours. He held her gaze. What if they are? For a heartbeat, she didn't respond. Then she stepped back, neutral again. Debrief room. 15 minutes. She turned and walked away. After she left, Elian returned to his chair but didn't sit. Instead, he opened a secure drawer beneath the desk and withdrew a neural isolator. A thin, silver band no wider than a hair ribbon. Illegal to use without cause. Traceable. He fitted it around his temples. The lab lights dimmed automatically, recognizing a high-priority scan. With slow, careful motions, he reloaded the encrypted strand fragment into the sandbox. This time, he would go deeper. Not just analyze it, experience it, and maybe, just maybe, find his sister. Or the ghost of her. Or the truth. Whichever came first. The neural isolator was a fine piece of tech, dangerously fine. Elian felt the cold tendrils of the device tighten around his temples like the delicate threads of a spider's web, just strong enough to hold but not so firm as to snap. He flicked his wrist, activating the sandbox environment. The data strand hummed, shifting in the air before him like liquid light, morphing into fractal patterns too complex for any normal human to fully decipher. But he wasn't just any archivist, he was Elian Voss. He'd seen and manipulated memories longer than he cared to admit. He knew what to look for in the light and in the shadows. And he was getting closer to something. His fingers tapped on the edge of the desk, syncing with the isolator's interface. The device glowed and his mind settled into the deep neural protocol. His senses blurred, the physical world slipping away like a half-forgotten dream. The memory strand expanded before him, a tangled web of living recollections that twisted and contracted as if the data were still breathing. He forced himself deeper, past the surface memories, past the ones of children laughing and distant suns. Those were the easy parts. Beneath them there was something darker. It came first as a whisper, barely perceptible, the faintest flicker in the darkness. His sister. Or he couldn't be sure. A girl with long dark hair and a crooked smile standing before a door that shouldn't exist. Elian inhaled sharply. He was on the edge of it now. Whatever had been hidden was close. Close enough that his pulse began to race, thrumming in his ears like the beat of a forgotten drum. The memory unfolded, a violent explosion of sensation, sound, and emotion that shattered the stillness of his mind. Don't look at her. Don't. The voice was harsh, a command wrapped in the kind of fear Elian had never known in his waking life. He tried to move, to speak, but he was frozen. The door, the girl, there was something behind her, a dark shadow that filled the space where the world should have ended, a presence that sent a ripple of dread through his chest. No. The girl whispered, "Don't look behind me." The sound was too sharp, too real. Her voice carried the urgency of someone who had seen too much, felt too much, lived in a world that had no place for innocence. And then the light flickered. Everything fell away. Elian gasped, the isolator slipping from his head. The world came crashing back, harsh and uninviting. His fingers trembled as he pressed them to his eyes, blinking rapidly, trying to steady his breath. The phantom sensation of the memory still clung to his skin, sharp and cold, like he had just stepped into an abyss. No, this isn't possible. That wasn't his memory. That wasn't... He scrambled to bring the data strand back online, but it fizzled out in a cascade of error codes. Something had interfered. The deeper he pushed, the more the data rejected him, fighting back like a living organism. With a sigh of frustration, Elian disconnected the isolator. He sat still, listening to the low hum of the lab's machinery, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The girl in the memory was someone he should have known. That much was certain. She looked real, too real. And that door, that strange looming presence beyond it. He shivered at the thought. It had been hours since he'd last checked the time. The data was no longer accessible. The encryption had sealed itself shut, as though the strand knew he had gone too deep. But it didn't matter. Not yet. Elian had learned enough. His pulse still raced as he stood and paced the room. He had to find out what had happened to Sector 13, why it had been erased, why the memories had been hidden. The Erasure Protocol was more than a tool. It was a weapon that could rewrite a person's entire existence. But who controlled it? What kind of power did it give them? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. "Director Nix is requesting your presence in the main archive. Immediate." The message was short, impersonal, but it came with a weight that Elian couldn't ignore. Director Sarah Nix. The very name sent a chill through his chest. There was no doubt in Elian's mind now. He had stumbled too close to the truth. Someone very high up, was watching. And if Sarah Nix wanted him, it could only mean one thing. She had seen his breach. The main archive was a cathedral of silence, vast and polished, its walls made of sleek black metal, towering high enough to make Elian feel small. It housed the oldest memories, the most secure, the ones no one dared to touch. He arrived at the entrance, the doors sliding open with a soft hiss. The air inside was thick with artificial warmth. Every step he took echoed on the marble floor, each one a reminder of how alone he was. At the center of the archive stood Nix, tall, poised, and unreadable. Her eyes met his with a sharpness that could cut through steel. "Elian," she said, her voice cool, distant. "I've been reviewing your recent access logs. Care to explain?" Elian swallowed. "Do not lie to me," Nix interrupted, her tone colder than any machine. "You accessed a classified fragment, one that belongs to me, one that you have no business touching." She moved toward him, slow and deliberate, like a predator circling its prey. "Elian, you should know better. The truth isn't a luxury. It's a weapon. And you just pointed it at the wrong people." He swallowed hard, trying to suppress the sudden rush of panic rising in his throat. I didn't mean to. No, you didn't, Nix cut him off again. But you did. And now you've seen something you shouldn't have. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Elian's heart raced. What? What's behind Sector 13? What's the Erasure Protocol? Her lips curled into a small, almost imperceptible smile. If I told you, Elian, you wouldn't be the man I need you to be. Before he could respond, her hand snapped out, quick as lightning, and pressed a cold, metallic device to his neck. You've been warned. Elian swallowed hard. The weight of her words sank deeper into him than any physical restraint ever could. He had known it was more than memory manipulation, but to hear it articulated so plainly, it sent a shiver of fear through his chest. What? What do you mean? He rasped, barely able to find his voice. Nix didn't answer immediately. Instead, she took a step back, pulling the device away from his neck and letting it fall into the folds of her jacket. She studied him for a moment, her eyes flickering with something that might have been pity, or was it regret? You think memory is a simple thing, she said. A record, a snapshot, a moment preserved. But it isn't. It's a foundation, a bridge between who we were and who we are. When that foundation is manipulated, rewritten, everything changes. The space between them felt infinite. Nix turned her back, pacing slowly along the polished floor, heels clicking against the smooth surface like the ticking of a clock. When you erase a person's memory, you're not just erasing their past. You're erasing them. Every relationship, every decision, every reason they did what they did. You leave only the shell. The protocol ensures that the shell remains functional. Elian's mind raced to process her words. So, you're saying that the Erasure Protocol is being used on people? Not just people, Elian, she responded, her voice hardening. On nations, on cultures, entire sectors. This isn't just a matter of removing a few memories from a few minds. This is about creating a new world by erasing the old one. The protocol makes the past obsolete. The coldness in her tone cut through him. The implications were staggering, far beyond the manipulation of individual lives. This was larger. This was Dash. Elian. Nix's voice brought him back to the present, sharp and clear. She stood before him again, her face close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her skin. What you saw in that data strand isn't just a fragment of history. It's an anomaly, something we've been trying to contain for decades. The word contain echoed in Elian's mind. The archivum, the mnemonic order. What were they truly protecting? From who? And why? The memories that were hidden in Sector 13. He whispered the words before he even realized they were forming in his mind. They're yours, aren't they? Nix's lips curled into a smile, thin, cold, and full of something he couldn't quite place. Yes, she said quietly. Sector 13 was the birthplace of the protocol, a place where we tested the first models, and in the process we learned something we never expected. The mind cannot be rewritten without consequence. Her gaze sharpened as she stepped back, placing a hand on the edge of one of the black pillars that towered over the room. She almost seemed to become a part of the archive itself, as if her very presence had been absorbed by it over the years. The Erasure Protocol is a tool of unimaginable power, but like all tools, it requires a wielder. And some wielders, some of us, are more susceptible to its influence. Susceptible. Elian's voice was hoarse, his mind churning with the fragments of truth she was slowly revealing. What do you mean? She met his eyes again, and this time there was something softer in them, something almost sorrowful. The protocol doesn't just change memories, it redefines them. At first, the changes are subtle, erasing an insignificant detail, altering a moment of choice. But the deeper you go, the more persistent the changes become. It doesn't just overwrite memories, it begins to overwrite identity. The more someone is exposed to it, the more they lose themselves. A chill ran down Elian's spine. You're saying that the protocol is addictive? He asked slowly, the words coming with a certain dread. Yes, she said, and there was no hesitation in her voice. It consumes you. It makes you question what's real and what isn't. You can never be sure if you're remembering something because you lived it, or because you were told to remember it. And once you can no longer distinguish between the two, you no longer exist. Not in any true sense. Elian felt as if the floor had been ripped out from beneath him. It wasn't just about control anymore. It was about erasure, a slow, insidious corruption of the mind, until there was nothing left but the hollow shell of a person. The silence stretched for a long time, as if both of them were waiting for something. An answer, a revelation. Finally, Elian spoke, his voice barely a whisper. So, if the protocol is so dangerous, why not shut it down? Why not destroy it? Nix gave a short, dry laugh. You think it's that simple? She turned toward him, and for a moment Elian thought he saw a flicker of something in her expression. Something beyond the steely resolve she had maintained up until now. Do you think the protocol is something we can just turn off? She asked. We've already tried. The process is irreversible. The protocol has become an organism of its own, embedded in the fabric of Halo Terra itself. It is our history now, Elian. It shapes everything. And you can't simply erase that. His head spun, the gravity of her words settling like stones in his chest. The protocol was no longer just a tool, it was a force that was ingrained so deeply in the system that it couldn't be separated from the society that depended on it. But why had it all started in Sector 13? Why had it been hidden so carefully, and why were people willing to let their entire past slip away for the sake of this twisted evolution? Nix stepped forward again, her face inscrutable. You want answers, Elian? I can give them to you, but understand this. Once you know, you'll never be the same. There's no going back. Elian looked her in the eye, his jaw set. I'm already in it. I've seen too much. Her lips tightened. Then come with me. But know this. The protocol doesn't just change memories. It changes the very fabric of who we are. If you dive any deeper, you might find yourself lost. Nix's hand moved to a hidden panel beside the archive's central terminal, and with a hiss of air, the wall slid open to reveal an elevator shaft, sleek and dark, descending deep into the heart of the facility. "You want to know the truth, Elian?" she said, stepping into the shadowed lift. "Then follow me." Elian stood frozen for just a moment, staring into the abyss below. But he already knew he had no choice. The truth was calling him, and with every breath it was pulling him deeper into the darkness. He stepped into the elevator. The door slid shut behind him, sealing them both in the silence. And somewhere below them the protocol waited.